Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. I want to spend some time today breaking down two of the most common accents that I get asked to do as a voice and accent coach working in London, which is RP and General American. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down what both of these accents are, what the posture's like, what the pronunciation like, and really comparing the two side by side as some of the most influential accents that we see in TV, movies, etc., etc. So by the end of this video, hopefully you'll have a good framework of understanding, but also you'll have some of the tools to start practicing these yourself. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know if you have any questions as we go on, and let's crack on. I'm going to be breaking this video down into 4 different categories, or the 4 Ps: people, posture, pronunciation, and prosody. Let's start with the people. This is the context of what we're talking about. So RP stands for Received Pronunciation, otherwise known as the Queen's English or BBC English. Now, this accent isn't necessarily tied to a specific place in England. It just became a sort of standardized accent because it's what we used to hear on the BBC all of the time. It sounds like a Southern English accent, and it is still standardized in the industry. It's usually linked to education, formality, and there's definitely a slight bias towards it. Today, I would say that I have a modern RP accent, but there's kind of layers to RP. There's more heightened RP, and the BBC English that we used to hear, probably only about 2% of British people actually speak with RP, but it still holds a lot of prestige here. General American, similarly, I learned about General American through Rebecca Gosnell's text Mastering the American Accent, which I'd highly recommend, but that also is not tied to a specific place, but instead it's almost this generalized wash of usually someone who speaks with it has a certain level of education, a certain amount of formality, and again, it carries a certain amount of social weight in the sectors you are in. Again, General American, like RP, is really largely used in media, making it a really standard accent in the industry. So both accents have really quite complicated roots in terms of history and class dynamics and kind of privilege, but they are both used as standard accents in the industry, which is why I think they come up so much. So let's get into the posture of both of these accents. Now, when I talk about the posture of an accent, I'm talking about the oral setup. What is the gear you are in order to drive off? And this includes the hesitation sound that you may want to consider. That is literally how do they and how do they are. For RP, bear in mind I'm speaking about a very modern RP accent here. The cheeks are relaxed, the lips are relaxed, and the tongue is flat. And I can demonstrate this myself as someone who has the accent. If I'm it's really this flatness. Now, this is actually quite similar to the General American hesitation sound. However, I often think about bringing my tongue ever so slightly further back. And then and you can see there's a slight lip retraction here as well, and a slight raising of the cheeks, versus Now I'm kind of heightening it so that you can see it in the video, because most of this is going to be something you can feel more so than someone can see, but usually versus is where you want to think about both of these postures being. So if I tried an RP Monday to Friday with this Monday, I'm really trying to fit into that shape of that heaviness and forwardness. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, versus Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm really trying to feel those differences. It might sound slight, it might sound really different to you, I don't know, but it feels and sounds very different from where I'm sat. And that is going to be your anchor for when you're practicing the next sounds. The next section, we're going to talk about pronunciation. Now, pronunciation of an accent can be split into consonant sounds and vowel sounds. If you're new here, consonant sounds are where there's a disruption of airflow, vowel sounds are where there's no disruption. So let's tackle consonants first. These are the disruptions of airflow. With any accent you learn, you want to figure out, is it rhotic or non-rhotic? Now, the General American accent is an example of a rhotic accent, which in a lot of ways makes it a lot easier, because when you see an R on the page, you're going to pronounce the consonant. For example, car, for me, in my modern RP, as a non-rhotic accent, is just 2 sounds, k, r, Ka. For the general American speaker, car, R. There are three sounds, k, r, car. And that is because the general American accent has that rhotic accent to it. So every R is going to be pronounced. Car, start, park, far, further. Whereas I would say car, start, park, further. Now, of course, as an RP speaker, I don't drop all of my R's. It tends to be if there's a vowel and then an R sound, I'm not going to bother saying it. For example, Peter, Peter, or further, further, car, car, etc., etc. The L sounds are also very different when it comes to the general American and RP sound. Now, the general American L sounds tend to have the whole tongue lifted, ooh, and kind of like cupping the top, Larry, lazy, lamb, whereas the RP sounds for the L at the beginning of the word anyway tend to be a lot lighter with the tip of the tongue tapping down, Larry, lazy, lamb, and it's this lightness there. Larry, the lazy lamb, called Peter. 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 And you can play with going in and out with that hesitation sound. Now that we've covered some consonant sounds, staying in the pronunciation land, let's have a look at the vowel sounds. There are some key vowel differences, but I'm only going to go through a couple in this video. The first one is thinking about the word bath, a very iconic RP sound for its lengthening. R, the jaw drops, and the tongue tends to go back. R, bath. Francis the calf laughed versus the general American, bath, bath. The jaw still drops, not quite so much, and the lips are going into that retraction that we felt for the posture and for the hesitation sound and wider. Bath, Francis laughed. As well as this, you have the RP trap. Now this is the biggest sound in the RP accent. It's really open, really wide. Trap. The cat dangled to the bag. Whereas for a general American speaker, the jaw doesn't quite drop so far. Trap. The cat dangled the bag. The cat dangled the bag. And there's that slight difference there. Another really iconic difference is the n sound. Now, because RP was non-rhotic, meaning if there's a vowel and an R, we're not going to bother, nurse is just s. And it's actually really similar to our hesitation sound, nurse. The purse, nurse, curse. Whereas because General American has that rhotic R, they are adding that R back in, meaning the jaw is nowhere near as open as it would be in that vowel sound. Nurse. Purse, curse, usually is what you would have. Nurse, purse, purse. And it's quite fun to go in and out of accents when you're learning them because you can really compare where does that need to be versus that one. And then one more sound I'll go through. Similarly, it's the rhotic R that's going to really differentiate this, is the word start. For me, as an RP non-rhotic speaker, art. And it's actually the same sound as we played with bath. Bath and start are exactly the same sounds. Whereas if we add the R in for the general American, start, park, car, it's that R sound that's going to disrupt this. So hopefully practicing these sounds and practicing sounds that fit in with each other's lexical set will really help you get used to, oh wow, my tongue has to move, my jaw has to move. And then you can add that into the R's and L's that we practice in the consonants section. And then don't forget to include those hesitation sounds to just make sure you're really anchored into the accent. And lastly, the last thing I want to talk about is the prosody or the musicality of both accents. Now, if you've seen my Skillshare course on the RP musicality, you'll know that I like to talk about musicality of an accent feeling light, heavy, smooth, or direct, etc., etc. So something I like to coach is for the RP accent, it feels a little bit lighter. It's almost like you're speaking through this funnel and it's wide at the back and really tight to the front. So maybe as you go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you want to imagine you're gliding on thin ice and it's really just throwing it away. This really helps for the RP's nature of making unstressed syllables. Curtain, for example. I'm just throwing that second syllable away. Curtain. Or even the RP's use of eliding something together. Blueberry, blueberry, whereas the general American accent tends to sit a little bit heavier, almost like you're pressing through something, and also has still unstressed syllables, but not quite like we do in RP. For example, the American speaker would say blueberry, blueberry, stationary, whereas I would say stationery, and I like to elide everything together. The American speaker is a little bit more committed to the very end of the sentence, whereas I might not be, I might just throw it away. And so practicing gliding through your practice sentences or practice monologue versus pushing through them often helps that prosody align as well. So hopefully that gives you a good indication or comparison of both of these accents, these very iconic, very standardized in the industry, and very much accents that growing up in an English language speaking country is just everywhere. And so hopefully it's useful to kind of compare and try both of them on. Now, if this is exactly the kind of thing that you've been looking for, and you can tell I can speak on this for a long, long time and there's a lot more to go through, and you are interested in learning more, I am actually starting a new accent course on January 9th of 2025. And I have 10 slots available for an online course, which goes through all of accent fundamentals through the RP and General American, and then a surprise accent of your choice in there as well. So if you are interested in that, I'm going to leave a link below, or do email me, as there may be slots left by the time you're watching this, if it is before January the 9th. And thank you so much for watching. I hope it's been helpful. Let me know if there's anything else you would like me to break down. And Merry Christmas, and have a lovely, lovely New Year. Bye.